Hey, welcome everyone into the Dev Insight. It's Gormizer. I got Trelly. Oh my God, I'm blanking immediately. Lermy.
What?
And then of course Chaos sitting over there. No, my mind. I've gotten so used to going through the same four names because every single content piece that we've done for the last like 3 weeks has just. And so I looked at you and went to say Mifflin, and I'm like, that is very obviously not Mifflin. And just because that's what my brain wants to say doesn't mean it's the right thing to say. No, we got Chaos and Lermy who are sitting by to help dive a little bit more into what. It's hard to believe dive a little more into. It was a very lengthy patch notes,
Yes, exactly.
but the update that had just come through. So you in chat right now, we've all got these little guys. Ask questions, and we'll get word directly from the fountain of knowledge. So you can know when things are. Lermy, I'll start with I think hopefully an easy opener.
Oh, yeah.
Which is what kind of inspired this one to be so full of changes.
So we've thought a long time about a lot of these characters, and one of the most popular kind of posts that we see online are ways to change characters' kits in some way or another, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that's just something people like to think about. People play Smite for the characters, so we want to make sure that when we are adjusting characters, we want to give them new, fun things to interact with beyond items, beyond the map, beyond the numbers, right? What does this character play like, and how fun can they be, right? And we have 130 gods, right?
It's a lot.
So many.
Over 11 plus years at this point of Smite history, and there's got to be something in there that's not feeling right. Not every god is the most popular in the game. Not every god has their full potential fulfilled.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe they do, maybe they don't a little bit. We just kind of wanted to see what we could do. This was a lot of experimentation. These were ideas that came over multiple patches, and just a lot of ideas from a lot of people.
Mm-hmm.
It was awesome to get a lot of collaboration from our ambassadors and other people that got to play test this internally as well. And it was just a really, really awesome experience to see the reactions to people when they got to play these changes for the first time, and just how, like, I don't know, excited they were.
Mm-hmm.
It really felt like we were breathing fresh air to a lot of these characters that have been around for anywhere between a year to 10 years.
And there are some where it's like Kali's alt change, right? Where it's just like, hey, now you can move. And like, it's something that when you think about it, or in like 2 weeks, right, when people are used to it, it's gonna feel like second nature.
Yeah, exactly.
But then like that concept of like, oh my God, wait a minute, like quality of life changes, like really actually making a big difference.
Yeah.
It's pretty massive. I'm curious, from the programming standpoint, were there any that were brought to you where you were like, oh my God, this is going to be a pain?
No, it's funny actually, because both Lermy and I were in a lot of the meetings, kind of being the ones to originate or ideate on this, right? Because I've been personally playing Smite for well over a decade now, and so a lot of these were like also just very close kind of passion. Ideas for myself of just so many things over the years that I experienced that were like, hey, I feel like this could be better, or have we looked at this more closely, little different things like that you pick up on, and you're like, now I'm finally in a position where I could do something about it. Let's try and do something about it, right?
Yeah, exactly.
I don't think anything in particular was too challenging programming side. I mean, maybe some of the Cthulhu changes, just making sure that, removing it from a channel back to more of a cast, that requires a little bit of difference there. Assets was relatively straightforward. It was mostly just timings, kind of animation change. I don't think any were too particularly. I think Xing Tian probably had the most new tech, I think, from what I remember, because his uncapped HP 5 is completely new. Right, we didn't have that in the game before, so that's completely new. And then also the concept of retaining that max HP whenever you have your max HP reduced, retaining your current health, making sure that it stays at that same value. That's also new, since that across the board on any other item, if you buy an item and sell an item or whatever, you'll always retain that percentage. Whereas with him, it's specifically to his passive, it retains that current HP.
Now, Trelly, I'm kind of curious, and this is I did preface this before we came in here. I was going to ask you this, so I hope you were paying attention.
Oh, I wasn't.
What is your favorite change? Do you have one that
I
stands out
thought
to
you meant paying attention to you.
Oh.
To the patch notes, of course.
Yeah.
No,
No, you're not going to pay attention to me. I was doing like nothing.
I was gonna say I don't remember what you said at all. I gotta say, I'm excited about the changes, like Agni, for example, being able to move all casting his ult, and then also the Cthulhu one, like those sort of fluidity changes. I think just being able to do a little bit more damage, like Cthulhu, not being able to hit your blue buff while you're 2 casting, that's always annoying. There's like those little things that just make the characters more fun. I miss playing Cthulhu. I miss playing some Agni, and now I just be able to jump back. And as you said, in 2 weeks, it's going to be like, I can't believe this was ever not a thing. Like, I wasn't able to move.
Yeah, if we had a Smite Wayback Machine, you'd hate it.
Yep, no, wouldn't use it. Wouldn't use it one bit.
I'm I will admit I'm kind of biased. Like, and Xingqian, like I feel almost cheap because I'm latching onto something that was already talked about. But like, that's not my class. That's the class I play, and I'm really excited to see how he feels because I think it was weird in a lot of the playtests. I got to play against a lot of some of these changes. Like, I remember playing against Odin, and, like, I had a good time in lane. It felt like I was playing against Odin, which, at the end of the day, is what we wanted. I don't think I ever got to feel that change, and I'm like, so I'm excited to grab some of these. But I'm curious for both of you, if you have one that was, like, when you incepted it, you were like, this is going to be the one that I'm most excited for.
Yeah, it's tough for me. I kind of pass it on to you so I can talk about it.
I think the Aset one was probably the biggest one because there's so many years. Again, like I said, back in the day, I used to play against like Mesa to Face a lot who would grind Aset, right? just shove lane in, go for jungle camps over and over. And Aset was very strong back then, and it was a really interesting. Whenever she's in the game, I find it very interesting. But I just think over time, it always felt like that one just wasn't kind of hitting the mark that you're looking for when you're playing because like there's so many other characters who can do what that one does but better, right? It's either their burst is stronger, their mobility is better, right? Like she's kind of this in between where in certain ways she's not hitting the marks in terms of mobility. If that wing gust is priming speed, she's not really hitting the marks in terms of mobility compared to like Agni and Scylla. And then in terms of damage, right, she's not hitting the burst of like Vulcan or Poseidon. So it just felt right to finally kind of like just speed up that one because that's been something that we've talked about before in the past. And finally, like getting to interact with it in game, it feels so nice when you like spirit ball somebody, you actually get to get multiple shots of your one off before they get unstunned, and you get to like actually confirm your burst off of setup and CC. It feels like a whole different character.
Yeah, I will say, having tested ESET with her new animation and going back to the old one, I'm like, how has it ever been this way? It's so crazy how natural it feels too. And you'd think like speeding it up by 25%, like it seems like that would be pretty insignificant, but in terms of animation, that is pretty significant. You're losing out on a little bit more of that like frame that you're getting, like frame by frame animation, but it still feels fluid. It still looks as beautiful as it has looked ever since she got her remodel. I mean, it looks amazing and it feels really fluid. But for me, I don't know, man. I'm also kind of along the lines of Xingqian. I'm really excited by the like kind of sustained tank kind of style that we don't really have. So I'm really excited to see how that plays out and how unique he feels now.
Hopefully, really just hopefully I can do something useful with him. That's what it's just, I always feel really good in certain matchups, and then most of the time I always feel he gives me, and this is a lot with this is just a support player complaining about support life, which is, man, I just guided you guys to water, please, for the love of just take a drink, do something, and we'll see what it is.
You're asking a lot.
Yeah. Sometimes, look, hey, here's a guy, he's 10% HP, he's not moving anymore, just please hit him with one thing. Some people, that's it's a lot to ask. It's a lot to hope for. But I do think we have a question from chat that we can throw up and see exactly. I wonder where it's going to be, which is the big question for me. But once that's up there we go. Paraphrase: after reviewing the data, are there any plans to bring back /4v4?
This is actually a very, very good question. So kind of we reviewed the data, and I know that our data goat, Max, made a post about this on Twitter. There really was a pretty significant downturn in like the amount of people interacting with the mode, especially as like the 2-week period that we had it out went on. And we did see that people did, like the individuals that did really like the sort of 4v4 style modes did enjoy it while I had it. It is something that we could consider bringing back maybe as a daily, or not daily, but weekly match of the day or something like that. We could kind of throw it in the rotation there, but I don't think that it will be a permanent mode. The data has been pretty convincing in terms of the fact that yes, 5v5 / was just the more kind of interactive mode for the populace.
I think one of the core metrics that we get to see, right, is, when somebody's playing /, what do they do afterwards, right? Do they re-queue /? Do they go into a different mode? And I think there were very clear deltas that showed switching to /4v4 kind of had people moving away from the mode after they tried it, right? They would try it one, and then they would immediately start queuing into something else or doing something else. And you can see that decrease kind of in the data. So that was also another pretty strong metric that supported the idea that we should go back to 5v5.
Yeah.
I feel like I remember, and I'm 95% certain it was on Max's Twitter, which is at Innocent Rabbit. With an underscore? Does it have an underscore? I can't remember. Maybe with an underscore, maybe not. But it's at Innocent Rabbit otherwise. And one of the things that had kind of blown my mind was that we can also track like not just where like, oh hey, you queued into Conquest afterward, or like this guy played it and went to Arena, but there were some where it was like this amount of people like logged off afterward, where it's like, ooh, that's not a thing that we would like to see. Like we like it when you're having fun and playing in the game. So yeah, I like that. I like the idea of it recurring as like a potential match of the day.
Fun side mode that you can get every so often, but yeah, there was pretty conclusive
sprinkled in.
messages.
Yeah,
I think we want to embrace too the idea of like running sort of experiments like this, right? Because we do want to make the game better. Everything we're trying to do, right, is just to make the game better. And I think sometimes there are like changes that are a little bit more, aggressive, where we're trying to get a lot more data out of it. We need to get that sort of data, and I think there's room to kind of be dynamic in sort of, hey, it's exciting to try something new. It might not stick, and we're going to learn a lot if it does or doesn't. And if it does end up sticking, then we did a great job attempting this thing to try to get it into the game.
And speaking of constantly improving the game, Domination's back, baby. I'm excited for it. Was there, especially like when looking towards, I guess, Clash coming in a little bit ago, Domination coming in, this next one, was there any like correlation between the two, or was it just one was an interesting experiment and then the other one's a classic coming back?
Yeah, essentially we're trying to kind of have something new for modes every so often, right? So you'll see that, maybe in this patch we'll do a little bit for, well, I guess last patch it was Slash. This patch is Domination, and it could be any of the other modes coming up at any point, right? We want to keep an eye on what our players are kind of looking for across the board, because Smite players do play a variety of different modes. The majority of our players do like to play a variety. So what's going to kind of be a significant enough change to want to bring people and drive them to a new mode that they haven't really been to very often, or one that they kind of ignore? There's kind of the question of, okay, what is like the factor that it will take to make them kind of try this new thing. And so again, like Chaos was saying, we want it to be a little bit extreme, but it's hard to do extreme after extreme after extreme when there's only so many game modes, and we don't want to also be disruptive at the same time. So we want to make sure that the changes that we're making are really value adds and worthwhile experiments too. So we definitely understood that there has been, specifically for Slash, to kind of go back to that, a lot of feedback that like, hey, we are missing like a siege style like 4v4 mode, and we were like, okay, we'll try it. We'll see what happens. And we did, and we got our data, and unfortunately it does look like the siege gamers will need to wait for the siege match of the days. They do come around, and believe me, I love a good siege match, but the data is just pretty solid. But back to Domination.
I was gonna say, you gave me Domination so I can be less upset about Siege now.
Domination is another mode that used to be a permanent mainstay in Smite, and then we removed it. We brought it back for an adventure. We brought it back again after doing some smaller changes. But this, I think, honestly, in the history of every change we've made for Domination, this is probably the biggest set of changes that we have ever done in, I don't know when Domination was introduced, but like I want to say like the 9 years that Domination has existed. And so we're hoping that really this like big set of changes is going to make the mode more intuitive, and really it plays very differently to Domination previously. So if you guys are even remotely interested in another kind of 5v5 kind of capture the point mode, or you've played Domination before, give it a go again. It feels very different, and it feels a lot more dynamic now than it has before.
Well, that's one of the things that was getting adjusted while we were playtesting it a lot, was like, hey, how much like the gold spooling, right? The experience spooling, where it was like numbers from way back just didn't feel as good. And now like we fine-tuned it to the point where it's like length is where you want it, like scaling, everything like that. I will say, as a preface, Lancelot, at least when Mifflin was playing it, felt bad. he was a real rude dude because he was everywhere, but that also could just be Mifflin being a rude dude. I did hear, I think that we have a question up and ready.
Let's get in.
And so did some of these changes get more focus due to notices when porting to Smite 2?
Yes, not particularly.
I want to say no. Yeah, I think in general, one thing that we wanted to be aware of is like what kinds of changes people are kind of wanting, and then there's the difference of what can we do in Smite 2. It's just different across the board when it comes to the kinds of things that we can make, the new tech that UE5 does bring, and also it's just kind of a new kind of place in general, right? So a lot of these changes, you know, they might not stick around for Smite 2. It kind of depends on where we end up, what the community thinks of these changes in general, and if they like them, or if maybe we have some new tech going to XYZ character in Smite 2. We want to replace whatever mechanic with a different one. That might also happen.
Yeah.
It really could be a variety of things, honestly, that happens in Smite 2. And I would say, you know, nothing is guaranteed.
Yep, I think these changes in particular, you know, again, a strong emphasis of just how long we've been playing the game, and as users who still want to log in every day and play, right? It's just how can we make this game better? How can we make things more fluid, more fun, again, more exciting? That's really the heart of where these changes were coming from.
Yeah.
There's two in chat that I've seen that I'm kind of curious of. Which one it stands out to me mainly because it's not something that I would have ever thought to ask to begin with, which is just looking into wall collisions on like other maps, right? I know because like Domination, there was a lot that had to go into it.
Yeah.
Has there been any conversation about like, oh, you know what? Maybe we take another look at Assault. Maybe we take another look at like Arena and see what's going on.
Yeah, so usually with those kind of passes, that'll come up when we do those kinds of changes.
Yep.
And some maps we have done that for and just not really mentioned it. This time it was a pretty big and, you know, kind of all-encompassing pass. So that's why we kind of decided to do that. But with other modes, you know, if there is like a specific place, you know, that seems to be giving people trouble, like please feel free to
let us know.
send screenshots, clips, whatever you feel comfortable with to us. Let us know, give us the feedback, and we'd be more than happy to go and clean that up. But yeah, I mean, it generally happens when we come across them. And again, let us know if you're running into them.
I can give an example because this is before I worked here. I was playing Siege. There was a very small sliver of wall over like looking one of the chasms where if you hit it with a Hou Yi bounce, it went down actually instead of coming back out. And every time, like every now and then I would hit that spot and I thought I was going insane until finally I loaded it up and I was like, okay, no. And then like 2 patches later, that was fixed and I was a very happy camper. And so if you find something, clip it, find it, record it. OBS is free. The other one that stood out to me was just, is there any idea of adding more modes that have like random gods or rerolls, trading, things like that? I don't know how that would work unless you just made it all random.
I mean, you can kind of do that in customs, right? I think the one thing that makes Assault so like well suited for the mode is just how like restricted it is as a game mode and like the kind of conditions that you're put into that makes it feel a lot more fair. If it's all random conquest and you roll up with 4 Guardians and an Assassin, you are not having a good time.
No.
In Assault, it doesn't really matter as much because you are limited into kind of a much smaller, concise area. You all are getting access to the same resources. It's not really that much big of a deal versus like a mode like that. It is things that you kind of can do kind of on your own time and in space and custom matches. You know, if you want to do that, that is a very fun thing to do. And a lot of match of the days have that. Like Grab Bag is a really good example. All in Arena is also random. And then, of course, one of our most popular modes out there is all out Assault.
Yeah.
Where it's Assault, but you can pick. And it's everyone can pick the same character.
I'll pick, baby.
There is a lot of excitement around actually
4 new walls.
The reverse of it as well, even though, you know, sometimes you do get into the situation where they pick, you know, 5 Hells or 5 Rods is really fun. That's a personal favorite of mine, just you know, Snipe Squad, but you can kind of see like.
But being on the receiving end, when it's 5 Raws and you get hit by all 5 snipes, like you're the one.
I go, you guys, you did what you came out to do. Congratulations.
In my experience, they just miss all 5 snipes, though. That's what usually happens.
Well, see, Trelly, you're good at Smite.
I don't juke. I just stand there, and everyone predicts the juke, and they just miss.
I'm gonna tell, and that's the thing. You recognize, you have that correlation. You know that the best juke is to not juke because most people are thinking he's gonna go left or right.
Good point. I didn't think about that.
Exactly. You're just thinking you're playing chess. That's the problem.
Understood.
I am kind of curious. Oh, realistically, the short answer is play the match of the day. Click over. There's like I know you've got the screen that has 4 modes. Just click one over, and then boom, you're gonna have it wide open. There was one that I saw that stood out to me, and mainly as there it is. Considered adding an extra slot for the runic bomb, where like you have consumable. That might be very difficult now that I'm thinking about it and said it out loud.
I think the biggest challenge is there, especially with the way that we've set up, you know, inputs on console and different things, right? It's hard to add an extra input. Right? It's a big challenge because there's already so many buttons that are used for so many different things. And at least with the way that we have kind of Smite 1 set up right now and the way that we've gotten people used to the control scheme and stuff, I think it would be a little bit challenging to try and add a whole extra slot especially just because of the way you would have to use it with that input or whatever. I think on PC it's a lot more easier because you can just add an extra button.
Yeah.
But for a lot of controllers and stuff, that button's missing.
We've already maxed out like as much as we possibly can. I will, and I want someone. Charlie, you probably would know this the best.
Lay it on me.
Which is just someone. They mentioned 5v5s, 4v4s, 3v3s, 1v1s. There is like match of the day is like 2v Tuesday is like a thing, right? Like it's literally on Tuesdays. The match of the day is 2v2 modes.
They've got Until Death. They've got Joust the Two of Us. They've got
Dual Siege.
Yep, Dual Siege. Is that all of them?
That's at least 3 though. Like,
wait, did I say? Is it called Death Till Death Do Us Part? What's it called? Until Death. Yeah.
Till Death.
Yeah.
That's the assault one.
Yeah. So there's plenty of 2v2, but what's the question?
Oh, it was just is there a chance a 2v2 game mode would be added to Smite? And I was just like, there's
Always Tuesday.
There's 2v2 modes there.
They're in there, baby. Just find them.
Just go play them.
Yep.
And I'll throw this out up front, which is as of right now, a lot of like testing stuff like starts on Conquest, then usually translates to other things. Mm-hmm. But I cannot think of a world where a 2v2 on a map that big would ever be.
Yeah, I don't know how you would do that, honestly. That's just
you
so
cry. You just wouldn't see anybody.
There is a mode called Shorthanded though, where it's 3 people on Conquest, and that's pretty fun.
That one is very fun because you each get your own lane. You don't have to worry about like jungler cringe ganking you 2 minutes into the game.
But just imagine being the minions that like aren't getting cleared. You're just like, what's going on, man? We're like, it's like 6 minutes.
We're just like
and
having a normal war here. What the heck? Where are the gods at?
It's the best to practice an early game where you don't have to stress about anything, but also not a duo lane because you don't have a duo over there. It's just 1v1s.
That's true.
Yeah.
Charlie, this is going to put you on the spot, and I'm going to apologize immediately if you flounder because of it.
I would never.
Do you have any questions after looking through the patch that you're like, I want to know more about this?
I mean, the thing is, right, the beauty of us being a little bit involved in the process is I got to hear these changes beforehand, and sometimes I get to ask Laramie, what are you cooking? And then sometimes I get to say, okay, that's why. And now that we've seen the finished product, I guess it's a few questions. Things like, when it comes to quality of life, right, like Bastet Jump, for example, I think of, Shock Axe, and I think it's kind of similar. Are we trying to do this for like every character that has abilities like that, or is it really just niche situations where, like Bastet, you wanted to get that cooldown immediately back, but Shock, there's mind games, right? Because sometimes you could teleport, sometimes you could train it into the slow. There's a lot of different abilities there, but is this just these were niche examples where you thought that these changes would work best, or are you still looking at the other cast of characters?
Yeah, so we're always keeping our eyes out for a lot of these related changes as well, and more places that we could kind of implement them. There are some characters that have a little bit more challenge when it comes to actually finding like that solid implementation that everyone can agree on and feels like is really, really potent and feels like the right thing to do, right? A lot of these kind of had to go through a very strenuous iteration process to where we were like, okay, can we even do this? Number 1. Number 2, is this the right thing for us to be doing, even if we can do it? And then number 3, now that we're testing it, do we still feel like this is the right thing to do?
Should we have done it?
Are we still feeling good about this?
Yeah.
And sometimes there's a 4th step in there where you're doing a little slight changes, like Agni was a good example, or one day you'd come in and it's kind of a little insight into our process. But the first time that we ever tested Agni, he had no slow on him because we just had to get him into one day, and we just didn't have the time to put in the slow. It was just, let's test it, see how it feels, and we were like, nope. Instantly, nope. And then the next couple of days after that, we tested a lot of different slow values. We went back and forth a couple times. We A/B tested. Sometimes we didn't even tell people what the slow value was, just to see their reaction when they felt it and what inherently felt right to them.
Right.
So with that character especially, it was a lot of that 4th step, which was the iteration and kind of testing and doing a lot of the in between, finding the perfect spot for it. Because you can only do so much on paper, right? You can say, I want to unroot Agni, and then we go, okay, how? And then they go, I don't know. Is that not your job? And then I go, yeah, it's my job. But, you have to think about that part when you're...
for sure.
I know. I'm going to... And you know what? I'll answer it because I know the same answer would come out of, I think, every single mouth on the couch. But someone was saying, why wait for, match of the day to play 2v2? First off, 4v4 is also currently now tied to match of the day again. So that's the only one. But also... the same thing we said about the /4v4 earlier applies to literally any other mode. And so if 2v2 was less popular or would be less popular, it also detracts from all the other queues if people are going to it.
It's a very delicate balance.
Match of the day.
Right? Because
Yeah.
it kind of has to do with a little bit in terms of like the more technical matchmaking side of it as well. Because there is, ideally you have as many people in a queue as possible
Yes.
at the same time to get as good of a match as you can. You get a nice range of people from all kinds of places and get them as close as possible, right? But the less people you have in that queue, they tend to be further and further apart. So if you split up a population into a bunch of queues, it starts to get a little bit kind of iffy in terms of what that difference is going to be between player, levels and skill levels and all of that stuff. So again, it's a very, very delicate balance in terms of the number of modes that we have and, the timing of those modes and what, is acceptable for our player base and what they feel like the matchmaking standard generally is. And we keep a very close eye on that, like what they do after kind of metric. Because again, we don't necessarily want people to log out. Of course, people have to log out at some point, right? Like that's just how the game is. But
and like life, usually.
Like, you have to log off at some point. That's the internet, I guess. But again, there's a very fine line when people start to get upset and feel like things are not really working. They're not giving the matches that they want to be in. And so the more that you upset that balance by adding in new modes or taking out modes that people want to play, it starts to get a little bit fishy.
And there was a period of time where there were a ton of game modes.
Yeah.
And every single wait timer was atrocious because it was just like you had 10 different game modes, including like match of the day and stuff. And it's just like, cool, I'm just sitting here, queue simulator. And like not even like the ranked queue simulator where like it's going to result in a better matchup. It's like it's just grabbing 10 available dudes and throwing them in.
Yeah.
So yeah, I saw someone say, too many queues and the wait time will suck. Huh. You've nailed it. This is almost like a rehash of a question I had asked earlier. But it's different enough, which is there anything not that you're excited for, but excited for people to get their hands on in this patch that like you're really excited to see what people think and how they maybe utilize it?
I really want to see Cthulhu.
Yeah, I was going to say Cthulhu as well.
combos.
Yep.
I'm so excited to see because that character, he's so cool, right? And he was like one of the most like popular releases in recent history, right? Just because he's such a big name across like pop culture and media in general.
The multiverse,
Yeah, the multiverse. But yeah, it's just such a cool character that a lot of people want to play. But then you go and play him, and in his current state at least, and you go, oh, okay, he feels, there are those times like Charlie was describing, like you're blue buff, you're just sitting there kind of waiting. And we were like, how do we take this time that you're spending kind of doing nothing and give you more agency, more ability to play into those combos that he really wants to do. His kit wants him to do these things.
Yep.
But he just didn't have the tools. Well, now he does.
Like, bro's so powerful, but he's sitting here going like this on his blue buff, and I'm like, just hit it while you're doing that. And you didn't ask me, Gore, but I'm going to tell you what I'm excited about.
Yeah, please do.
I'm going to be in duo lane. I'm going to lock in the Croc, right?
Yeah.
There's going to be some nerd that picks Ymir and thinks he's so slick, and he didn't read patch notes, he wasn't paying attention, and he's going to try to wall me off, and I'm going to swim under his wall, and he's going to be floored. And I can't wait for that to happen.
It's also going to absolutely confuse that Thor that's playing in the same lobby who comes over to your...
Did I say Thor?
No, you said Ymir, but I'm adding another god with a wall to the
both
list.
Odin, Thor, and
He throws,
Ymir.
Ymir
Odin,
throws up
Thor,
his
and
wall,
Ymir
and he's
all
like,
ready
what?
to
And
wall.
then Thor goes for it, and he's like, what?
And then I'm just lurking in the waters.
Yeah.
And then I'm going to laugh at them as I swim away. That's what I'm most excited for.
That's what you're most excited for?
Yeah, for sure. That exact interaction, that will happen.
And how many games of Sobek are you going to have to stream in a row until you get that exact interaction?
Until enough. You said some people have to log off, not me.
Yeah, good. Yeah, you know what? You're not wrong. How many? Okay, so that's level 5, Charlie.
Yep.
Now you've put me in scenario mode.
Okay.
How many deaths up to that point do you think you're going to eat from a Ymir wall?
None.
Oh, yeah. Well, you're right. It's you. I should have.
Yeah, I'm built different.
That's on me.
But I do want to make him look foolish.
And you will. Absolutely. He's going to feel foolish.
There might be times where, you face plant into a wall, but the one time...
The one time that it worked.
He's just going to see me swim under. He's going to be like, oh, that's what he's been trying to do.
What you really need to go for is the Ymir wall to like block you out from like a Gold Fury or a Fire Giant, and then you lurking in the waters in. That dude, he'll be frozen. He'll be stun locked mentally.
And he can't freeze me because I'm in the water.
Exactly. You're CC immune. You're set.
Yep.
But if he tried, well, actually, okay, Laramie, hold on. Spicy change. Ymir can now freeze Sobek in his ult, and only that because he's in the water and it's ice.
Okay, but then Agni should
Spicy
tell-
changes, elemental
Oh, God.
damage and interactions.
This is why we
Agni
never-
is
Yeah.
weaker to water god.
This is
I'll-
why we
I'll write it on
never
my
let
list.
Gore cook.
4-point font.
There was I can't remember what it was. We were talking. We even mentioned it at lunch. Every now and then, Laramie will give a suggestion that's like I'll say on the line of like an
Yeah.
acceptable change, right? And then everyone else's reaction is to let's take this and like bring it back to where it should be, rein it in a little bit. I always decide, no, let's see how far we can go with that. Like what if I think I've pitched this on at least 6 different gods. What if they just like could blink during their ultimate? And I'm just like, yeah, just like Ymir. What if he just moved around?
We have talked about that, and that's
And I
kind
get
of like
told
a
no
bit- a
every
very interesting
time.
topic though, because a lot of the times we will start with very extreme situations and pare it back, right? And that's just to get people's brains rolling. Like when you tell them, I want to give XYZ character like 5% power, you go, okay, whatever. But when you tell them, I want to make Agni move when he ults, everyone goes, oh my god, he can move when he ults. That's crazy. Wait, we have to talk about this. So starting out somewhere, something that sounds a little ridiculous, and then bringing it back to something, okay, that sounds a little more sane.
Yeah.
You know, that's just kind of the insanity of design a little bit.
Look, all I'm saying is someone jokingly said now Neith can move when she ults, and I think that would look hilarious.
I don't know. She like crouch. I don't know how she.
Yeah,
can
she
do it, by the
kneels.
way.
Vibes, and then she just walks on her toes, and she just goes around the
Toes.
corners. She's very slow, but she can just move just.
No, I like
a
the
bit.
idea of keeping the animation from like the waist up the exact same, so it's like super rigid, but then her legs still work the way that they would normally. It just looks.
I don't know how you.
It would
you
look
as a human,
monstrous.
Like, can walk from that low. You
Well,
know
she's
what I mean?
she's a goddess,
She's a
so
goddess.
she'll figure it
Yeah.
out.
Well, a humanoid.
Humanoid. I'll steal some questions from chat instead of asking goofy things. Yeah. Oh no, it moved. There we go. Will we continue to see major rebalances to popular discussed abilities / kits throughout the year?
We certainly want to do more. That's not to say that we guarantee at any point that they will happen, but it's stuff that we are continuing to keep in mind and be on the hunt for if there's any more characters that we feel like we could do things along these lines to. We definitely have, eyes on some more things that we want to keep testing, and we're in the testing process for, so definitely, yes. I don't know when.
Yeah, yes, but TBD.
I think it's important to point out too, right? We don't want to just make change for change's sake, right? Like,
Yeah.
so we have to, as we kind of look across the board and look at these sort of abilities, we have to ask ourselves, right? Is this going to strictly add value to the game, right? And does this kind of like pass that test? And so that's kind of the metric that makes it maybe challenging to do all the changes that many people can think of and all these other things, but there are some that really stick out as like, oh yeah, no, this will objectively make this character feel better. We can have some tests internally that prove that concept, and let's go ahead and maybe ship that out the door.
Yeah, exactly.
Now for the trap second half of that question, which is, were there any gods? Well, I don't know if it's really that much of a trap. Were there any gods that you wanted to change but decided not to?
Ooh.
There were some that we had to push later.
Yes.
And we can't spoil that.
Yeah, we're not spoiling that. No. You guys.
But
can
now
wait
you
for
know
next
that they
time.
will be potentially,
Next
maybe
month.
some later.
Yeah, come back next month to find out. But yeah, it's stuff that we are constantly iterating through, constantly talking with our ambassadors as well. That's another very important point. Is we've got a wonderful, wonderful group of content creators and other individuals that have come by to our tests very often, or even just read. Posts that we'll put out to them and say, hey guys, what do you think about XYZ thing? And they've been absolutely instrumental in keeping us rolling in terms of, finding these new things to do, and also feeling like we're getting a part of the community involved in approving these changes as well.
And there's one, and this one I think is actually really interesting because I had never considered it. But specifically adjustments that happened for domination coming back.
Yeah.
It says the shutdowns are now worth more tickets than just getting a normal kill. And they're curious if that's something that we could see translated to like the arena ticket system potentially in the future.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny. I think I don't even think it was on the patch note show, but there's actually the arena wave spawn system is now in domination.
Oh, yeah.
We just didn't specifically talk about it.
right,
but
okay.
yes.
Yeah.
But when it comes to the tickets themselves, it's definitely something that we can discuss. We do know that shutdowns are definitely a very potent mechanic in general, especially when it comes to snowball and anti-snowball and how it feels to be that person ahead. We do want to make sure that there is like comeback mechanics. Right?
Exactly,
People feel
yeah.
like they have a chance to come back, but we also don't want to overly punish the people that are playing well, right? Because if you're getting onto these.
Sorry, someone in chat said make Achilles' lore accurate so he only takes damage from the back of his foot, and I couldn't.
From one specific spot. Yeah, we can probably do that.
Because, you know, yeah, called shots in Smite. I'm hitting the ankle.
That's such a gore thing to bring up.
Dude, it's no, I wasn't. I was trying not to, but it was just so funny. I'm sorry, Lermy.
I read it so long ago, and I just ignored it like a normal person would. But
It made me giggle.
I gotta bring it up.
What was I saying? Oh, yeah, maybe.
I ruined the. I'm sorry, guys. I ruined the in-depth answer.
Yeah, I think it's important to look at too, right? A lot of cool things that were in Arena, that was kind of some inspiration to improve domination, right? So we kind of pulled that into domination, and it made the game just feel so much better. So there is some point of saying if there's some things that we recognize in domination that can make the game better, that we can always, you know, shift those things around and such. But it definitely comes with, you know, conversation, testing, dialogue like that.
Yeah. Exactly.
I'm going to throw this one out there because it's just a comment, but we love you and how transparent you guys are.
Aw,
So there you go.
guys.
People are happy. We love that. I know this was a patch that I remember was really interesting, just especially like for all the updates that have come out. Like it felt like no matter what, when we were talking about it, like this one kept feeling like it was the biggest upcoming one, and it was like that's crazy considering like a new god launched and there was still like something bigger on the horizon.
We were talking about that too, and how we were like, we're so excited to be able to bring this much excitement at a time when, you know, there's so much effort being poured behind the scenes into Smite 2, but we're still cooking on Smite 1, guys. Don't worry. We're not leaving you guys without anything, and especially during the alpha phases where it's going to be periodic, we want to make sure that you guys will always have some kind of Smite content to look forward to, and we're not going anywhere.
I know Shelly, I'm going to do a blanket statement and let you plug content that you've been doing.
Okay.
Which is, I know there were a lot of questions, like I'll see, like it's kind of interspersed of patch, general random question, and then like Smite 2 specific questions.
Right.
And I know there's been a lot of, like, you've been doing a lot of interviews and stuff and like content involving that.
I've been behind the scenes on a lot of Smite 2 stuff. Some things we can't talk about yet, but what...
Just like, where can they find videos to find out more information on stuff like that?
Oh, yeah. Check out
like plug your stuff, the thing I said to do.
Check out the Smite Game YouTube channel, as well as SMITEPro, both of which are going to have a lot of interesting Smite 2 content if you want to learn about how the game's going to be. I know Lermy, we're on opposite sides of the coin here. She was saying, you know, Smite 2's cooking, but don't forget Smite 1's also cooking. I'm going to flip it and say Smite 1's cooking, but don't forget Smite 2's also cooking. So check out
Everybody's cooking a little bit.
We're all cooking here.
Yeah.
It's a very big kitchen.
Yeah, just check out the YouTube channels. Trust me, there's some good stuff on there.
There you go. So that's the blanket answer for every one of those questions that I glanced over.
Oh yeah.
Yep.
Then the other thing, especially because it's almost 6, so we can like chill. Y'all have been going for a while now, and so I'll go Trelly and then over like right. What is this? Right to left, left to right? Yeah, right to left.
It's clockwise.
That's so much smarter than what I was saying. Clockwise. What you are looking forward to most when patch drops and what you're going to play first.
Okay, well, I already said the Sobek thing. So
okay, yeah, you're right.
So we're going to skip
damn, wait,
that.
I did already ask that. No!
It's okay, we're going to skip that.
Pretend I asked another one.
We're going to skip that. And my new interaction that I would like to test is just, okay, so I'm Chiron, okay? And you're on the other side of the map. Now, I'm going to shoot you a bunch, but now I'm getting ganked, right? So I've shot you with Centaurus, I'm getting ganked. So I'm going to giddy up away.
I feel like I'm
but
there.
As I'm leaving, I'm just going to, and then just, and I'm going to get a kill while I'm getting up away from your enemy jungler, and I'm going to give him a little tiki on the way out. You can now fire Chiron Masterful Shot while giddy upping. Okay, that's the bit.
that's
the scene.
I'm gonna change the question before it gets to you, Lermy, which is there any last words that you have about the patch? Because that's a question I haven't asked.
Just in general, we are so excited to be in the 11th year of Smite. We want to keep making amazing changes that refresh a lot of these characters, because at the end of the day, when you pick up and play Smite, you're playing a different god, whatever god it might be. You might have a favorite one, you might have a favorite 10, you know? Any of these characters, we want to make sure we're trying to get to a lot of them and freshening them up, making them feel more fluid, making them feel modern. A lot of what makes Smite fun is actually feeling like a god, right? Feeling like you have this kind of impact on the battleground. And that's what a lot of these changes are designed to do, is to give you a new fun thing to try and play with. So again, please, 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 I want to emphasize that a ton. Give us some feedback on these changes. Go ahead, try them in PTS when it comes out, and of course when it comes to live and in ranked and all of that good stuff, because it's gonna be awesome. We want to do more of this stuff if you guys really enjoy it, but that's all dependent on you guys and what you think. So bring your ideas, bring your feedback. We want to hear all of it, and I'm excited to do more.
Anything to add?
Yeah, no, I mean, I echo a lot of the same sentiment there. I mean, it's been so many years in the making. I think I'm approaching almost my 7th year working on Smite, and I think Ro looked into when I had made an account. It was back in 2012, so it's been more than a decade of playing Smite as well. So I mean, everything we do is just coming from such a strong place of passion and wanting to see this game thrive and bring the best type of value that we can to the game, and just strictly make it better, right? Wherever we can, make it better, make it more fun, make people enjoy it, make engagement at whatever we can to bring people in. That's what we're aiming to do.
Yeah.
So
I mean, we were Smite fans before we were even employees, so
exactly,
believe us when we're saying it. We wouldn't still be here if we weren't feeling like we can continue to make this game more amazing and more fun for you guys as well.
Yeah, this patch very much comes from the heart, and I think future patches going forward, especially paying more attention to these things. These are the types of themes that we're going to see more of.
Exactly.
And so I guess with that, make sure either play on PTS if you get the opportunity to. Make sure you're playing the patch when it drops next week, as well as just checking out all the other content that we put out. You can go to the Smite Game YouTube channel, SMITEPro, Smite VOD if you want to watch old Pro League games. I don't know why I threw that one on there, other than it's just on the list of YouTube channels that we have. But then thanks so much for tuning in, asking us questions, and we'll see you on the next Dev Insight.
May